Hello, thanks for joining us today.
Oh, no problem. Were the forms I sent back filled out okay?
Yes. Okay, so to get started on the interview, today is Thursday, March 18th, and I'm Elizabeth, and this is my partner, Xander. Can I have you introduce yourself with your name and your job here on campus?
Sure. Alissa Burger, Associate Professor of English and Chair of the English Department and Director of Student Success.
Okay. How long have you personally been here at Culver?
I have been here, this is my 5th year here.
Okay, longer than me, obviously. Now, towards more your background information of you personally, what college did you attend?
I did my bachelor's degree and my master's degree at the University of Northern Iowa, and those were both in English language and literature. And then I did my PhD in American Culture Studies at Bowling Green State University in Ohio.
Okay. What drew you to that major?
The American Culture Studies?
That and also the English, yes.
Okay. English was an easy one for me because I love reading and writing. So by the time I got to college and realized that somebody would pay you to read and write and talk to people about the things that you read and wrote, that just sounded like the best thing in the whole wide world to me. And then I ended up kind of falling into my PhD because I was trying to decide between doing a PhD in literature or doing a PhD in something more pop culture based, like film. And I wanted to do some stuff with gender studies, and the American Culture Studies degree. You could do all of that. So it's really interdisciplinary. So I still got to specialize in literature, but I also got to do a lot of pop culture stuff. I got to do a lot of gender studies. I got to teach film. So I didn't have to decide. I could still just keep doing a little bit of everything.
Yeah, that's great. What made you want to teach at a college though?
Teaching at a college, I love having the opportunity to share what I know and what I'm passionate about with students. And this is probably going to sound really awful, but I curse way too much to teach high school. I'd be fired in no time. So teaching college makes the most sense. And with college students, you can get into a lot of the really complicated, deeper, potentially controversial things that you don't really have that freedom in high schools. This morning in my gender and literature course, we're talking about LGBTQ plus memoirs and graphic narratives. And there are very few high schools where I could just roll in with something like that and it not be kind of a big deal. But here, college students have those critical thinking skills, have those analytical skills, want to have those tougher conversations so that we can talk about the big things like that.
So say you want to go teach at a college, what actually drew you to come here to Culver?
I love Culver. I love both of my tenure track jobs have been at small colleges of right around 1,000 or fewer students. And I've never really wanted to be at a bigger college or bigger university. I did my college work at big state schools. And I think it's easy for students to get lost in the shuffle. At a bigger place, it's easy for somebody to not notice that you need a little bit of extra help or you need some extra support or resources. Where with smaller schools, even if I only have a student in a Gen Ed English 101 class, I know who that student is. I know how they're doing because I'm going to be seeing them for the next 4 years. Even if they're never in another class with me, I'm going to see them in the hallways. I'm going to see them on the athletic field. I'm going to see them, doing student organization stuff. So to have that opportunity to work closely with students over that entire 4 years and get to know them and see how they grow and develop as people and develop, find the things that they're passionate about and find the profession that they want to pursue and just see that light go on in their eyes when they realize this is it, this is what I want to do. Just to have a student in a class for one semester and never see them again and never know what happens to them just sounds incredibly sad to me. I would rather be someplace here where I know what everybody's up to. They come back for homecoming and I get to see them. You get to build relationships here that you can't build at bigger places. And it's also, I'm originally from the Midwest. So when I did my PhD, we moved from Iowa to Ohio. And then my first tenure track job was in upstate New York. And so I was 20 hours away from basically all of our family, was halfway across the country. So to have the opportunity to come here where our families are still, 3 or 4 hours away, that's a lot closer than, a 2-day road trip or a plane ride. So to be closer to family and to be teaching at exactly the kind of school that I want to teach at, like, what's not to love?
Saying on the stuff that you like love, what's your favorite spot here at Culver?
Favorite spot at Culver. I love the stacks. Like, I know some people think the stacks are creepy, but I love them so much. My office is in the library, and some of the most peaceful like times that I have on campus is if I come in to work early in the morning and it's dark and I'm the only person in the library, or if I'm finishing up something like later in the evening on like a Friday night and everybody's home and it's just dark and it's just me in the library. It's so quiet and so peaceful.
Um, what what's something if Culver does that stands out compared to most colleges that you've like been to or that you've like know about?
Yeah, one of the things that I love is that we really celebrate our students and our student accomplishments. So one of the things that I was just kind of blown away by the first year I was here is that every year we do honors day to recognize like all the accomplishments of our students and all the hard work that they put in. And we do the senior dinner. So every graduating senior gets to come to this fancy dinner with the trustees and faculty and staff. And that we actually just like take time out and spend that time and spend that money and spend that energy to just basically stop and applaud the hard work that our students are doing. Like I love that. Like other places you might get like a thumbs up or like an email or something on the website or the campus paper, but here like we definitely celebrate our students enthusiastically.
I feel like that goes back to the connection of being like a smaller college too.
Yeah. Yeah, it would definitely be harder if there were like 4,000 of y'all.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
So now I'm gonna pass it on to Xander.
Okay.
So we're now going into more of the female questions.
Okay.
So first of all, do you have any knowledge about like the first women on campus or anything?
I do not. Like I don't know probably as much about the history of the college as I should. I know we're the first coeducational college this side of the Mississippi, which is a big deal, and that's pretty exciting. And I did a class once where we went through all the old yearbooks, and so to kind of see the old pictures of the sororities and coeducation when other places weren't really doing that kind of coeducation was exciting. But I don't know too much about the history, I'm afraid.
Okay, so here's just a little overview so you can get the bit of knowledge for these next few questions. So they implemented co-ed after the war, and it took about 20-ish years for them to finally get the dorms on campus so women could actually, be on campus and allow them to get educated here. And the first female student was Alice Staples, and she was first enrolled in 1866. And men believed that she would slow down classes at that time, so she had some difficulties. The women were the first to have uniforms at Culver, and then a year later, men had to get uniforms, but the women's were a lot more stricter than the men's. And in 1910, the women's first basketball team was formed, and in 1938, after they've been doing sports for so long, they were first allowed to earn varsity letters. And at first, women weren't allowed to have formal tournaments there when they had these sports. So for the first question, does any of that information shock you? What's the most interesting do you find or shocking?
I guess I would want to know like why the women had to have uniforms a year before the men. Like, what were the dudes wearing? They're just walking around wearing whatever they want.
I don't know. I
No.
think they were recommended suits the next year,
Right.
but couldn't tell you.
Yeah, and when you said that, I remember seeing like the replica of the women's uniform down in the archives and
Yeah.
thinking like that would not be comfortable on like an 80-degree May day or
Yeah.
on a rainy day like today, like your skirt getting all wet and ugh, no.
So if you were Alice Staples, or in Alice Staples' shoes and offered to be the first female student at Culver, would you take the offer?
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds like tons of fun. I know it sounds like she definitely had some challenges and people saying she's gonna slow everything down. Like, but yeah, I mean, I'm all for any opportunity for education. Like, I'm one of those nerds who, like, when a thing comes out and it's like, you want to do this free webinar? And I'm like, yeah, I want to do the free webinar. Like, any opportunity to learn something new, and especially to be like such a trailblazer and be so groundbreaking, that would be fun.
Yeah, but there'd be a lot of cons. I don't know how I'd feel about that.
That's
Okay. Um, do you feel that Culver could have done better on implementing co-ed and supporting females?
I think that's really hard to say. Like in the present, looking back, I guess the question that I would want to know more about, like to be able to answer that is, were we doing better than other similar institutions? Were we doing worse? Were we about like, is it just a sign of the times and that's what all institutions were doing? Or were we extra great or extra crummy? I don't know.
Yeah, that is an important factor to keep in mind. And I don't have enough information to answer that.
Well, that's why you're in the class, so you can learn all this fun stuff, right?
Yeah, but my job is to do Culver's, not other people's. So seeing as they were just allowed students after the war and a war took place, if Culver accepted females like 30 years later than they did, do you think Culver would have been successful?
I'm not sure. I suppose like Dr. Campbell may be able to speak more to this or answer this question more. If there are kind of parallels between post-Civil War and post-World War II, like were there fewer men enrolling after the Civil War because of the casualties? I think it would definitely be a different kind of institution if it hadn't been so inclusive and coeducational, like right from the start. Like our history and traditions would probably be significantly different. So I like them the way they are with the inclusion.
Yeah, me too. So do you as a staff member see any difference in females' experience at Culver compared to any men's experience?
I mean, I'm sure everybody's personal experience is different, but I mean, we have like in the athletic teams, we have both men's and women's soccer, both men's and women's volleyball. We have a similar number of sororities and fraternities. So I think there are lots of for the opportunities that are gender specific. I think we have some pretty equal opportunities for those kinds of activities. But I'm sure like everybody's individual experience differs depending on who they encounter and what they're involved in and stuff like that. It might be different in different majors. Like there might be some majors with a lot more men than women or vice versa. And that would impact things as well. I'm sure impact people's experiences based on gender.
Okay. Do you think Culver sets up its students to succeed?
I hope so, but like that's a big part of my job. That's what I spend a lot of time doing every day. So I might be biased. I think we do a really good job of setting students up to succeed because every student has like their academic advisor, they have faculty members who really care about them. But then we also have like the office that I work in with student success, where we pair students with success coaches and we help connect them with peer tutors and all these different resources. And I know Student Life works really hard to connect students with resources for getting involved, and residence life resources and mental health resources. And we have a couple of retention specialists here in my office whose like their main job is to connect with students who need that extra support, who need those extra resources, and make sure we're doing everything we can to help students be successful. So, I mean, there are always more things that we can do, and we're always looking for more things that we can do. But I hope we're doing okay. I hope we're doing great.
Yeah. Okay. So, last question. Do you think it is important to look back on history on subjects like this, the first female students?
Absolutely. I think with anything that has to do with history, if we don't know what's happened in the past, like we can't learn from those mistakes. And I think it's incredibly important to honor the people who fought for that equality, who got us where we are now, and to recognize those accomplishments, because women's experiences on campus as students and as faculty members and staff members are really different than they've been at other points in the college's history. So to take a minute and recognize Alice Staples as the first woman who kind of braved all those different challenges and was the first one to kind of make these things possible. And, you know, other important women in the college history like Mary Culver or President Thompson being the first female president. We have like all these great trailblazing women that we certainly should take the time to stop and recognize and look at how they've impacted our college campus and community and identity and what we do to serve our students.
Okay. That was our last question. Thank you so much for participating in our interview and giving your view.
Yep. Once again, thank you for letting us interview you as well.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. This was fun.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.